This is our annual webinar, which we do every year, sometime in December, sometime in January. And this year, I'm super pumped up, excited to have Barry and Eric join us for this webinar. We are going to be discussing what's happening in search, what happened in 2023, what we can expect. And with that, I'll just go through brief introduction. I think everybody knows Barry and Eric, but Barry he's a editor of Search Engine Land. He's also a founder, CEO of Rusty Brick and Search Engine Roundtable. But introduction, I feel personally about Barry is I read his news more than I read newspapers. So our days don't start without his news, and we don't sleep without reading Barry's news. So, it's great, Barry, for you to join us. Thank you. And Eric, Art of SEO, he's a author of Art of SEO, a really good friend of mine, well-known expert when it comes to AI content, technical SEO, and you name it. I still remember doing panel with Eric when we used to be much younger and wiser, or other way around. But anyway, thank you so much, Eric, for joining in. And I think everybody knows me, so I will not brag about my introduction, and I will fast forward this. So what are we talking today? We will be discussing search evolution. We will be discussing latest algorithms which were released last year, and what is the impact of these algorithms on search generative experience. What are the top trends, must have, and what are some key takeaway for 2024? Before that, just promise only one slide about Milestone. Milestone was founded in 1997. We are today 2,000 plus customers, digital platform and services. We work with a lot of big brands, a lot of SMBs, and we won some crazy awards with 5 different verticals, and so on. With that, let's get started. So last year, we created this AI portal where we have compiled all kinds of information for businesses. If you are looking to understand what are possibilities of AI, and we have series of webinars, series of articles, which we have written. I normally write an article a month on Search Engine Land, and here is an article which was just released in December, which is all about search trends and what are search priorities. Feel free to review this, and that's what we will be covering. I think last year, I can honestly say, was a biggest year when it comes to various types of AI model, from BART to Chat GPT to Midjourney, and having fun, starting from having fun to really making use of these models, to integrating these models in our day-to-day life. And that actually put Google a little bit in an uncomfortable situation. And that's when Google launched, just in December, Gemini, a great model which could take your text and code and audio and video and everything together to come up with most comprehensive information. So to me, that offers up huge opportunities to business. It's goal for us to make sure every piece of your information is visible, readable, and discoverable. With that, I am gonna request Eric to do some Q&A with Barry. So let's get started. Let's go with our very first question.
Sure. No, I've been looking forward to this because I've been interviewed by Barry many times, so it's nice to have an opportunity, as they say, turnabout is fair play. And Barry, I want to start by thanking you for all that you've done for the search industry for decades now. You've been a great influence and a great educator, and really helped a lot of people throughout your career. So thank you for all of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure thing. But having noted that, can you talk a little bit about some of the biggest algorithms released in the last year and what you see happening with the evolution of search as a result?
Yes, I think the biggest one we saw in terms of what the SEO community even still talking about today is that helpful content update in September. Um, I think it was the helpful content update that Google originally announced that they wanted to release. That was the previous helpful content updates were pretty weak, but this one seemed to hit really hard in September, and it's still people are complaining about it today. Um,
Right.
with that in combination with like the hidden gems, like you're showing all these like Twitter and or now X, Reddit posts and these YouTube videos and so forth. These things are coming up in combination with the helpful content update. It's really kind of like upsetting a lot of SEOs that thought they had what they needed to do to rank well, and then all of a sudden their websites are no longer ranking well, and they're seeing all these like hidden gems showing up, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later. So the helpful content was probably the biggest update I saw. Then we had these like 4 core updates, which are always big. Core updates are always very big, but we had 4 of them, I think, in 2024 or 2023, which is big. Google also announced the reviews couple updates, but also said they're not going to go ahead and announce future reviews updates. So that was kind of big. And a lot of these unconfirmed updates, which I report about a lot on Search Engine Roundtable, those were also very, very big. But I think the thing that people look back at, like people look back at with like the Panda update and the Penguin updates, the Medic update and so forth, would probably be this helpful content update in September. I think it was probably very, very big. That's my opinion. I don't know if you have disagree with that, but
Yeah, no, I agree. The one footnote I would add is the notion of Google punishing sites that publish content that's not helpful didn't first start with the first announced helpful content update. I'd seen instances of that previously with clients, but this gave them a way to label the concept and start to putting some real teeth in it, and they're clearly evolving it, and they found that it's a really strong concept. So completely agree with you on that as being a candidate for the winner. Okay. Also, it'd be great if you could talk about these 4 different factors or aspects here, if you will. At this point, searcher experience, core web vitals, tech SEO, or helpful content. What would you say is the most critical?
yeah, I mean, I think most people would agree it's content. You want to make sure your content is amazing, is helpful, is something your readers want to read. So I think content is always going to be the most important aspect of it. Even if you look at what Google has been saying, Google's always like, look at your content, forget about the links, forget about everything else. The content is where you should spend your time. But of course, if Google cannot access that content, if your technical SEO is so bad, where Google can't even crawl that content, Google can't consume that content, then you have an issue. So yeah, obviously there's a fundamental layer of making sure that your technical SEO is good enough where Google can actually access your content and consume it and understand what that content's about. And then obviously with all these the latest stuff around all the stuff with the Department of Justice and Google, all their documents being leaked, and you have this thing around nav boost and so forth. Searcher experience, obviously Google's been saying search experience is very important, the page experience is very important, but searcher experience and how they're interacting with the search results kind of makes you say, oh wow, maybe searcher experience is a factor that we really should be looking into, making sure that people want to click on your search result, people want to consume it, people want to interact with it after they go to your website. I think probably the least critical in this list is probably core web vitals. They've been saying that forever. I'm very like, I don't know. I don't think it's something that people spend too much time on in terms of that. Everybody does it because it's a green. You want to have that green score. You want to have that 100 score, but I don't think it's that critical at all. I mean, content is always the most important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one, by the way. The thing I want to note here, when we talk about helpful content, you could translate that phrase and say content that helps users accomplish what they want to accomplish. That's what Google basically means by that. And so it's really important to capture that concept, and we'll talk more about all that later. Let's talk a little bit about double EAT. And how important that is in especially with everything that's going on with generative AI right now.
That's a good question. Yeah, especially with AI content. Obviously, just to summarize, EAT is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Technically, there is no EAT or EAT score, so don't convince that. But obviously, there's signals that Google uses that convey or kind of correlate with the EAT. And you want to basically write content that your readers want to read, that kind of convey that you have experience with that content, that you have an expertise. You might not match on all those things. And Google said the most important thing, I think, is the trustworthiness stuff in that area. So make sure that when you're writing stuff that your readers trust what you're saying, and they could trust it through you conveying that you have experience, that you have expertise, that you have authoritativeness in that topic. Just don't publish content that you're writing just because you want to rank. Don't publish content because you want search engines to rank it. Publish content because your readers will love it. And the good thing to say is, like, a good way to benchmark that is, if you lost all your Google traffic today, would you have readership? Would people go to your website directly? And, hopefully the answer is yes. If not, then maybe you're not writing content in a way that is considered EEAT. And one last thing is, I think that Google should add another E on top of this, where AI really can't do it at this point, is I think they should add something called entertainment. I think there should be an entertainment factor to how people write, how people build web pages. Just like yesterday or 2 days ago, The Verge came out with an article, which wasn't so entertaining, but the way they actually produced it with these graphics and stuff was a little bit more entertaining. It looked really bad for the SEO community. And a few months before that, Google came out with The Verge came out with another article, which is super entertaining to read. I was laughing the whole time, but it made SEOs look really bad. And I think some articles, you need to kind of add that entertainment factor. And it's hard to do that necessarily with AI right now. In the future, probably we'll be able to do it. But yeah, I think when it comes to all those things, you should really write content in a way that people will trust and people will be loyal to your writership.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. SGE. Wow. I mean, like, how do you think that's really going to impact the SERPs and things like click-through rate and the like?
Good question. So SGE is a search generative experience that launched about a year ago. It's been in beta or so, or actually probably several months ago. It's been in beta and it's still in beta. And it's basically Google's new AI version of their search engine. You can opt into it going to Search Labs in Google, only works in Chrome and on Gmail accounts right now. And a recent study just published in Search Engine Land by authorities says that 94% of Google's SGE links are different than organic search results, which is opposite what Google told me when they announced it. They said the most of the links you'll find there are from our actual top search results, and this study says no, 94% are not. Also, SGE is showed for 86 or 89% of keywords in the analysis, and also SGE showed about 10 links per answer, but only 4 unique links. So of the SGE answers and the actual links that are shown, only 10 links, but 4 of those were unique, and Google cited the same site multiple times. And then our friend Bartos from Only had another study a few months ago saying that SGE was generated for about 81% of all queries, which is interesting. And 67% of those AI snapshots were automatically generated without you having to click on generate answer, which is pretty interesting as well. So SGE, at least right now, it's opt-in. Obviously play with it. It's important. See what they say about your brand. See how it answers the queries that you're looking at. And hopefully you are being sourced in there. But I think the sources are going to change over the course of the year or so, definitely before Google releases it. So you still have some time there, but definitely play with it. It's hard to know the exact impact, but these studies do show that SGE does have a lot of links in it, but the links that are ranking really well right now in organic search are not necessarily what is presented in the SGE snapshots.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Okay, so KPIs and metrics that we should focus on in 2024. What are you thinking?
I think that's really dependent on the business itself. So, I mean, outside of like conversions and so forth, which everybody looks at, content quality. We've been talking about content quality for a while. How can you measure your content quality? There's obviously third-party tools, but also, are people engaged in your content? Will they come back? All the stuff you mentioned before. That should be a KPI metric that you should look into. Indexation, like is your content being indexed? That's another quality content measurement. If Google's indexing only 20% of your content, why? That's a measure. That's a pretty bad thing. It could be a technical issue, but if Google's able to crawl your website and they're still not indexing your content, there might be a quality issue with your website. Obviously, it's the conversions. And I know Vanilla is very interested in impressions, like more around brand marketing. Is your brand showing up in the SGE box? Is your brand showing up in the feature snippet box? Is your brand showing up for certain types of queries? Because maybe they're not clicking over to you today, but maybe they'll remember your brand and contact you in the future. So those are all some metrics you should look into.
Perfect. Okay, and what do you think about how AI or generative AI is going to impact the way we organize our work and the organizations themselves?
Right. So as some of you guys know, I'm crazy into being efficient. I love using technology to make myself more efficient. I've been using Midjourney for creating images like crazy on my website. I love those images, and there's no way you could get a better image that conveys a technical topic. Like, I don't know, having a robot writing a book on a beach. You can't really do that using stock photography, which is great. Anyway, but in terms of the organization, you probably need to generate a policy, company policy around how you will use AI for your company. Like, will you use a likeness of images? Will you use it at all? Will you use content to write content? How much of the content will be written? Do you have to review it by editors? So you kind of need to kind of come up with a policy around that. Will you adopt AI at all? Will you block it completely? Some companies are blocking it. And how could you use AI in different ways to make yourself more efficient? You could come up with some prompts, a database of prompts that are useful for different divisions in your company. And obviously discuss this all with your lawyers to make sure you're doing this in a way that won't get your company sued in the future. Of course, nobody knows what's going on right now. I know OpenAI is being sued, and Microsoft's being sued by New York Times and other publishers. Lots of lawsuits coming out right now with that. So you got to be a little bit careful, but have fun with it, and maybe do it behind the scenes in a way that you can make your company more efficient using AI.
Yeah, and there's this concept of an AI-enabled worker that I am very hot on, that if you do it the right way, you can take your subject matter expert employees and enable them to do far more. And it's that balance of trying to do it in a way where you don't give up on the quality. In fact, likely to improve the quality in the process. So let's go ahead and jump ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, and I know there's some Q&A coming. We are going to take all the question towards the end because we do have some awesome information. With that, Eric, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of search. So let's dive in. So, throughout the past year, 2023, some of the algorithm updates that we've seen. I'm not going to step through each individual one here, but generally speaking, I think Barry got it right, which is around helpful content being probably the most important one. But there were a lot of other things that happened around the review updates. There were quite a few of those. Google has said that, and it's reasonable to believe that pretty much most of their algo updates since, I would say, March of 2018, or back quite a ways, we're focused on user intent, and finding hidden gems is a part of that, and topic authority is part of that, and experience is part of that. But we're going to talk about all of that some more as we dive in further. So experience is such a big deal. The AI revolution, the generative AI revolution that we're facing right now, is one that really threatens the really the quality of the web overall, because of the scale at which it could push out content. And when you use a tool like generative AI, which they call it hallucinations, I think we should just call it errors, because that's really what it is. It makes mistakes. Right. And if you just push that content out and you do that for a year, and then AI continues to consume the content and then publishes more stuff, et cetera, it just will get worse and worse and worse. So Google's placing a lot of weight on experience, and also personalization into their products. Is becoming incredibly important. And I'm going to talk more about that as we dive into it in some slides a little further in the deck. And then we've, of course, been seeing a rise in zero-click type search. So that's been increasing, and the percentage of traffic from search has been declining, also partly because Google gives more answers, and they do other things to steer the user towards YouTube, or other kinds of things that don't deliver traffic to our site. So this is a universe that we have to be prepared for. I think it'll be very troublesome for Google if they take this too far. I hope that they recognize that, but we'll see, and we need to be prepared for this as well. All right, let's dive into some top trends. SERPs, especially on mobile devices, are getting increasingly visual, and that's just a fact of life. Small form factor, kind of a pain in the ass to spend a lot of time reading, and we kind of just want to get the information we want and get going. So here's just some related data. 59% of searchers prefer visual information, and so that's a pretty interesting stat. And then more than a third of mobile screens are completely occupied by images. That's inclusive of videos and maps and things like that. So this is just part of the landscape that we're facing, and it makes sense for Google. This is part of the process that they're using to personalize the experiences. It isn't making it visual for visual's sake. It's making it visual because users want that. And as the personalization wraps in behind it, it's going to get even more and more intense. So here's just several different examples. Well, 7 different examples. You see SGE results. You see local listings changing. People also ask. It's not visual in the sense that it's an image, but it's different. It's a break from the rest of the search formatting, so it kind of has a visual impact. And just straight images, of course, and web stories and video, and then even vacation rentals. And there'll be more and more of this stuff happening. The blue link doesn't necessarily disappear entirely, but it might. It might on mobile devices, just because the push to create these engaging experiences is so high. And then, it was really interesting to see some of the other things going on the SERPs too. So Google has been experimenting with perspectives in mobile search. And so what that is a way that they have of wrapping in other people's experiences in response to whatever the query is about. So you get Twitter and YouTube and Reddit being the most common sources for this. But all of those places, those are real users interacting. Well, hopefully it's real users and not bots. The idea is for Google to be able to pull in real users. And as we see here, already on more than 15% of news queries, they're pulling in these perspectives kinds of things. And of course, sports and entertainment are other great ways to do that. This is part of that more complex and involved response to AI, of how they want to bring in user experiences much more into the SERPs. And then just another example of something that's different is testing rental listings. There's a lot of businesses that are pretty prominent in the business of offering up apartments. So this could be a big threat to them if they don't get involved in this somehow. Now here we see that apartmentslist.com is getting these listings. And then visual optimization, there's a lot of things that go into what we need to think about here. But basically, a lot of what Google is trying to do is structure things so that the user doesn't have to keep doing multiple different searches, and they can get everything they want in their first search. This has a great bearing on what you do with your content strategy, by the way. And I'll talk more about that when we get to talking about helpful content in a little more detail. And so this is more just another trying to get the right words without getting redundant here. It's really another way to think about how Google is going about making these search results even more and more diverse. All right, let's talk about helpful content. So we talked about that during the Q&A with Barry, but content that is user first. So what does that really mean? Well, so for those of us who engage in search, it's a pretty common practice to, you go do your keyword research, and then you figure out you want to put it in the article from that, and you try to structure some things in intelligent ways, and create something that's useful to users. But what if instead you talk to your customers and you looked at your site search queries and your sales or product marketing or marketing people or customer service people, and found out what the real customer concerns and issues were and what they were looking for, and used that as a primary input, and then took that keyword research to guide it, you know, so that you're using the right phrases and things, both for user perspective and SEO perspective. You might find that you're going down a path that has longer term viability with the way Google is evolving. You also need that strong double EAT, particularly experience. By the way, to the question from Lisa that popped up, I am going to talk more about double EAT in a minute, so bear with me. But you know, the experience is a big deal for Google, and I already mentioned it before, but it's worth reiterating that we just don't want AI to take over everything, and Google is doing a lot to make sure that they reward sites that really highlight actual user experience. So the 3 steps really quickly, you know, you got to go through and identify what the right things to write are, and, you know, understand the audience, the intent, the topic, do the kind of research I talked about, find the competitive gaps and opportunities and what's performing well and what's not, and create that map of things that you want to work on. And then you need to go through a content generation process, which is designed to, you know, basically get you high quality content. And then you got to measure the success of that and keep looping around and around and around. So with that, let's jump ahead. So I do want to mention, I kind of covered the first 2 points of this already, and I want to make sure that we get through all the slides. So, but I do want to highlight this third one. If you are going to use AI to assist in generating content, and I'm a fan of doing that, but only if you have heavy human involvement and humans own the final output, the quality of the final output. Ideally, a human whose name appears on the piece of content so that they have some ownership around it. So that's the way I would approach AI generated content. So let's jump into engagement and experience. So there's a whole set of different kinds of contexts to think about. And I'm not going to cover all the bullet points underneath, but I do want to cover the concepts here, which is, you know, people have, you know, time when they're just looking for information. And then people have times when they want to go somewhere. And then they have a time where people want to do something specific, like a how-to kind of thing. And then people want to buy. And this is just 4 examples of different types of mindsets that people will have during the customer journey. And you need to bear that in mind as you create your content plan.
Awesome. I just wanted to chime in. Somebody asked, what is a user-first content? Really, user-first content is which is created for those moments, right? So just wanted to add here. Go ahead, Eric.
Absolutely. So, and ultimately, what Google wants, what they're trying to create with their own search experience, we already talked about it, trying to minimize the number of clicks that users have to go through to get what they want. Well, they want us to do that too. So imagine your website consists of 4 classes of pages. One, call it a head term page or a top page. So that's a single page. And then maybe there's 8 category pages underneath that I'm calling second level pages here. And then 20 long tail pages, which are more specific questions that they have. And then 50 very long tail pages, which are very specific questions, even more detail oriented. And so these numbers are all artificial just for the example here, but imagine your top page it's really good, and 11% of users who visit it are satisfied. That's actually an outstanding result for a head term page, by the way. And so that's okay, but you're leaving, 89% of users on the table. So then you create the second level pages. Let's say that each of those satisfies 3% of users. So cumulatively, the 8 satisfies another 24%. So add that to the 11, and now we've satisfied a little more than a third of users. But still 2/3 we're ignoring. So then we create the long tail pages to answer even more specific questions. And maybe each of them, answers maybe less than 1% each, but it's cumulatively another 18%. And now I get to more than half of users. And then very long tail pages, I won't go through all the math in the same detail, but I create them all, another 50 pages. And I'm finally to more than 2/3 of users. So the reason why I'm drawing this pyramid out for you is, first of all, the numbers are artificial. For you, the long tail pages might be 10, or it might be 100, depending on the complexity of your topic. But Google is trying to understand, when they send someone to your page and your site, what percentage of users are likely to be satisfied upon arrival at your site, so that they don't end up having to click back and go onto somebody else's site. So that's important to understand. So a big part of that, though, an additional part of that, is how well are you engaging the user? So, everybody wants or needs something. You should help them achieve their goals, of course. And you need to understand how they're interacting with your content, and optimize the experience in your site so they have a better experience. Then on the other side of things, in terms of experience, we want both user-generated experience and insights from experts. This is also part of Google's response to AI. So let's move on, please, and talk about personalized user experience. So Google is moving down the direction of making their site, their search engine, much more experiential and interactive and personalized to each user. And that's a big thing that is a major focus for them at this point. So you see, just some examples of things here. That's part of the reason why search is becoming visual. But it's also imagined that all of these things, like the particular images and videos being brought up, are being contextualized based on what's been clear that you have more interest in. So if you have particular music artists that you love and you're constantly listening to their music on YouTube, you might see more of their videos appear where appropriate contextually in the search results. And they even had at one point an experiment they did around a thing called simple search, which they never clarified what it was and never even officially admitted that it was there. But you could imagine that Google could even have an option for somebody who says, I just want the simplest possible answers. I don't want all the detail. I just, give me the 3-sentence answer. And that could be the direction that they were headed with that. Another cool thing about the personalization, by the way, when we adopt that on our own site, first of all, we're aligning what Google is planning to do with their site or their search engine, and that will bode well for our participation in their search engine. But it's also really good for improving engagement on our site and conversions. And those are incredibly important. Conversions is where it's at the end of the day. We are here to feed our businesses. So I want to talk a little bit about the multi-channel strategy too, because, and by channels here, what I mean is, think of search as having been broken into many different channels. So we have to play in videos, right? We have to play in images. I want to play with FAQs. We want to be in People Also Ask. If applicable, we want to be in news and articles, and then webinars. It's like, so we want to optimize the customer journey with the nature of the content that we create, and the way that we engage with our customers. And we want to make sure that where there's opportunities that come up within search that we are there with content to be shown in that part of the search results. So big changes coming up, and we got to get in line.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. So let me take these few trends. I know there are a lot of questions coming in, so just few more minutes, we'll wrap this up and then we'll take all the questions. So few other trends is enhancing local strategy. What does it mean for location-based businesses? It's not about listing anymore. It's about being inspired for what your audience are looking for in your local space. For example, Facebook marketplaces, both my kids use that like crazy, right? From renting apartments to buying all the stuff on Facebook marketplace or user-generated content. A lot of brands are using a lot of UGC content to bring authentic connection with the brand, or even doing inspirational TikTok and Instagram video, right? As much as I try avoiding these two channels, these channels are actually becoming stronger by the day for small businesses, for location-based businesses. In fact, if you think about the content, what's trending in your local area. So Google had this great, awesome tool where you can go in and find out exactly what's trending. What's still trending in San Francisco Bay Area is air quality and Taylor Swift, right? And once you know what your consumer, what your customers are looking for, what they're expecting out of your brand, then creating various types of assets or various types of helpful content enables you to build that authentic connection with your customer, right? So here is a study which Moz has released last year, and they talked about the ranking factor for local business stands from GBP signals, loss also on-page signal, review signal, everything around trust, how accurate information you can give to your customer right away. In fact, one of the latest update GBP launched, Google Business profile launched, was your hours of operation, if they're open or not. It was just launched like 3 days back. Or they also launched doing web stories within GBP. So again, more interaction, more personalization, more reviews. It's very little. If you see right here, local listing, it's like 7%, but a lot of it is just quality of content you are sharing with your customer. So our suggestion is, when you are creating your local strategy, understand what your customers are looking for, what kind of amenities, what kind of FAQ, study schemas, ensure you have interaction, engagement, like Barry talked about, the entertainment factor, including all of those elements as part of your landing page or your experience strategy really helps in conversion. With that, to me, Local 3.0, I changed this a little bit from last year to this year, is all about good quality content. I know some of you asked about what do we mean by UGC or helpful content. It means, what your consumers are looking for, right? So if it is a home store, or if it is a big automotive, they might be looking for used car inventory. So let's start doing some videos around that. Or, what are the various things to do in the area? A little bit less around brand, but more around what consumers are looking for in the local area. With that, I'll go to the next one, which is brand mention and social proof. This is something brand new we added this year. And it is actually having, we can see big impact on your authority of your domain, which is really how you are connecting with your customer, with your influencer. Here is a brand which I was kind of researching. When I was researching for this, I found that they have done a phenomenal job in interacting and engaging with their influencers and having them share stories, right? And it works for a lot of businesses where you have some awesome, enable your customer to create content for you, or enable influencers if they are coming to your your location, enable them to create content for you, right? So that's where customer testimonial, influencer marketing, celebrity endorsement, all your reviews, in creating a platform which enables all the community folks who are talking about you to be together and discuss and sharing their latest and greatest. With that, what I would say is brand mention and social proof, they are not direct ranking factor, but they are absolutely indirect ranking factor. They helps with authority and trust. Absolutely understand what your customers are looking for, what question they are asking to create those long tail content strategy, and find ways to be mentioned on well reputable sources, right? Reaching out to your PR company or relevant influencers and things like that. Now, with all of that said, how do you prioritize, right? It's really always 80-20 rule. How do we do less with maximum impact? So the way we categorize this is, number one is your foundation. Number two is looking at right metrics. And number three is enabling your company and your organization with AI-enabled workforce. And that's what Eric also shared with us. So with number one, technical SEO and infrastructure, because you can have amazing content, but if you don't have right infrastructure, right platform, this content is not coming together for maximum impact. In fact, John Mueller, for folks who don't know John Mueller, he is a voice of Google, just released a great video just 3 days back, and he talks about 4 takeaway. Number one, technical SEO. Number two is heavy focus on search quality algorithm, which is again AI helpful content. A lot of it is helpful content, reviews, and experience. Number three is embracing. Google is saying embrace AI and machine learning, but be mindful of its usage towards experience. And number four is structured data. Ensure what you are putting out there is available, is discoverable. With that, here is a nice, foundation element which you can create, from crawlability to indexability to relevancy to popularity. Getting your foundation strong is a key for you to build strong overall 2024 strategy, digital strategy. And with that, I would also say having your scalable architecture, having very, very strict focus on security, compliant, and how you are scaling your infra for various types of customer through CDN or for multi-language and things like that. Number two, let's look at new metrics. This is an article actually I released sometime in November, where I kind of discussed about latest metrics, and latest metrics is just not conversion. It is visibility. These are engagement and conversion. If you want to know a little bit more about this, please do go to Search Engine Land or Milestone blog, and there is an entire article on SERP, future-proofing SERPs. So what are the visibility metrics? Impressions, search results. What are engagement metrics? How are you, scroll depth, time on the site? What are the conversion metrics? How people are converting to you. But if you are in an organization only focused on conversion metrics, then we are missing top of the funnel activity. So do include these as part of your overall strategy. Now, with that, I think biggest challenge marketers are gonna face, and they need to resolve it, is how do you create your platform, your solution, which are easily scalable, right? You cannot be putting these metrics in silo. You can't put organic metrics with without paid metrics. And how do you make sure it's easy, your reports are easily adjustable, digestible, right? Because consumer patterns are changing constantly. New metrics are being released constantly, old metrics are deprecated constantly, and it's not possible to just keep doing all of that within your platform. So what our recommendation is, centralize all of this, centralize all your information in a almost like an elastic format so that you can create your dashboard business based on your business goals rather than just standard metrics which are constantly changing. With that, I am going to wrap it up with one or two more slides. That AI enablement it's a culture. It takes enabling your team members, enabling your product, really bringing that awareness and knowledge is super critical for organization in 2024, and of course was there in 2023. So here is an example I will give you is, one of our favorite offering, which we released sometime last year, where within our content management system, our digital asset manager, we integrated that with AI and able to give a quality score. Now, it was an amazing feature. Anybody who got it saw some crazy return, but there was just so much effort had to be put in to bring all the images from file folder to cloud, and then bringing awareness and making sure all the teams are coming together to understand what it is and able to communicate impact of what we have built. So really point here is that there is a huge evolution of what people are doing or they were doing before, right? If you see, content writers today are becoming prompt engineers and content strategists. Your SEO, SCM, marketing folks are becoming data analysts. And as an organization, you must have cross-functional goal. You got to get your leaders' hands dirty and understand exactly what problem they are solving, because these problems cannot be solved within one department because entire definition is changing constantly. And aligning organization with common goal, having common goal is a key because everybody, most of us are still working remote. And if we don't have these common goal, it is hard to bring that efficiency. And that's a leadership challenge as a company we need to solve. I know, Eric, you have talked a lot about AI-enabled worker. You want to chime in here?
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important to, as Banu suggests, to understand how to wrap AI into your broader organizational strategy. She had a bullet point on there that, people who are workers who are AI enabled will take the jobs of people who don't learn how to work with AI, and that's where the real threat is. But, to people in their jobs, and, don't panic, just take the time and effort to learn a little bit about how to use the tools effectively in your job. It's not a situation where it's going to replace humans entirely, not at least at this point. I think we're a ways away from that yet.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll just take one or two more slides, close it up, and open it up for questions. With that, number one, there was a Forrester report which was published, just early part of this year, which talked about by end of 2024, search engine will be measuring impression, not just click. It's going to be all about rich media. It's just not going to be all blue links. Number two, connect your, marketer must connect all your channels. Having one team do your SEO, another team do your SCM, and not leveraging co-optimization strategy is not a smartest business decision anymore, right? It was never a good decision, but now going forward, SEO and SCM is all integrated. Connecting your customer journey and understanding what your customer pain points are to create your content strategy is going to be pivotal. Making sure you're using right metrics, right? Because right metrics is going to help you make right decision, and enabling your organization to align would be also really critical to use to leverage AI effectively. With that, I am gonna open it up for Q&A. I think there are just few more questions. There's some awesome webinar coming in. There is a webinar we are doing with Conductor. So please sign up. There is a webinar coming in with our partner Sojourn, which is you're gonna be hearing more. And again, there is hubs of awesome information. So please do, if you need anything, please do let us know. And then again, if you are looking for some input or guidance, feel free to sign up. With that, let's open it up. Open it up for question. What is the title of Forrester report? We will share that with you. Deborah, thank you so much. You have asked some really awesome questions. So yes, Deborah, if you don't mind, share that. Our team will take that and we'll share a report with you. Let's take few more questions if it's okay, Eric. Let's just, opening hours for GPP is still very much disputed. Depends on industry and area. Yes, I agree. I think it's just point I was trying to make that Google is constantly testing various types of features in their search. Okay, let's take few more. Eric, you want to explain what EEAT stands for?
Sure. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So the experience just relates to real world experience being involved in creating your content. That means user-generated content or expert, your subject matter expert, or guest experts contributing to your site, creating great content. So that's the experience part. Expertise, well, I kind of just alluded to it when I was talking about experience. Some of your experience may come from experts. They want to make sure that you're bringing real expertise. Well, Google doesn't want you just to regurgitate information that's already out on the web. They want you to bring something new and special. And that's what they want to reward. Authoritativeness, that's we can associate that with the notion of links, although I'm sure Google has other elements that they include with authoritativeness. But that's something that Google did, is they turned the dial back up, we believe, on the weight of links in response to protecting themselves from a surge of AI generated content. And then trustworthiness is really kind of, what are your motives? Are you someone who is going to take care of the customer in a good way when they come to the site? Or are you going to bait and switch on them or do other things that would say that you're untrustworthy? So you want to be good at all those things. As I believe it was Benu said earlier, it might have been Barry, it's not a signal that Google measures directly, but they look at other signals that help them understand how you address EEAT.
Awesome. I think there is a really good question here. Are results that appear in SGE attributed to organic KPIs?
You mean, are they trackable in?
I think that's what are they trackable?
I'm not 100% sure on that one, Benu. Maybe you know the answer.
No,
yeah,
it's
we
not
would have to get back to people on that one. I don't think they are, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, it's not trackable. They have not released because SG is not, it's there.
Well, it's not
but,
released. Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
But,
so they have not released it as part of our,
so the real question is, will they be trackable once SGE fully releases?
Yep. In fact, it's really funny. Just 3 days before, or I think last week, Google stopped giving quality of URL or page within search engine with the search console, right? So what I'm assuming that they're just pivoting towards more around SG's result. But let's see when they are going to release SG. That's when we will know what KPI. But it still is important. It's important for us to know where your business is sourced and which sources and which channels are getting attributed. Okay, there is another question. What does zero click mean? Eric, you want to take that?
Sure. So what zero click refers to is when someone does a search in Google, and they don't click any of the existing listings that come up, or on page elements that come up, none of the images or videos or whatever. And they either just go away, they were completely satisfied, or they enter a new search on something else, or or they get their answer directly from Google. So that's what zero click means. So we talk about zero click searches because it means that it's traffic that's not available to us from those search queries.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think okay, Brian, I would look at same YouTube videos for, okay, what are first few items someone should use to start understanding AI and its application?
First few items to understand about AI, I'm sorry.
And its application. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's what are some of the use cases for AI?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different use cases, actually. What AI, generative AI in particular, so talking ChatGPT or Bard or even Bing Chat, they're really good at surfacing ideas and information. What they're not good at is that the information is often not accurate or complete. Like if you would really pretty much never generate an article with your generative AI and publish it without some human looking at it, because it probably wouldn't be very good. Extremely good chance it wouldn't be very good. So, but if you have a subject matter expert and you use it to generate outlines for them, it can help the subject matter expert get started on creating the content. Because here I have an outline and say, oh, that's a pretty good starting place for the outline. But then they'll go, oh, it's missing this and it's missing that, and do a little research and they make it better. But it helps them get started. And it's always easier to be an editor than a creator from scratch kind of person. And it's very powerful at that. And that's something that you can use in many different ways in your organization.
Awesome. Yeah, literally in our organization, from our engineering to our website to QA and, marketing, pretty much every team. In fact, one of the
Yeah.
experiments is I'm super excited to see the result of it is how do we use AI even for our L1 support, right? So how do we take all this awesome data, we have it available, and then use AI to answer a lot of those questions. It's really sky's the limit. We are bringing mid-journey integration or image ability to create images in the CMS. There are just some amazing use cases for AI. So only thing I would say is absolutely making this a necessity. I think we are almost done. I guess, Eric, do you have few things you would like to just wrap it up, one piece of key takeaway for audience, then we can thank everyone.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So, we talked about many different aspects of how search is evolving and how Google's evolving, but the key thing is how do we need to evolve? And we tried to talk a little bit about that too, but whatever you do, keep getting back to what's going to create the best experience for the user. And if you do a great job of that, and of course you do the tech SEO you have to do, and you promote yourself well and those kinds of things, your chances of doing well in Google are much better. And it's for those of us who come from a raw search marketing background or SEO background, that's not the way we're necessarily oriented to think, but it's the way we need to think going forward. And it's really important for you to do that, because if you don't do that, you're going to get behind others who do.
Awesome. And I would only say is within the organization, make sure your teams are gaining those becoming almost like T-shaped marketer, right? You can be really good in one thing, but you have to have enough enough skills to and opportunities to understand what's happening in other departments to solve customer problems, because customer problems are changing constantly. It's not just like Eric said, talking about AI generated content. What should we be writing about? And is it really performing or not? And how do we really take, the content writer problem today is not to create content, is to make sure the content which is created is working or not. And that requires a completely different skill. It's not a writing skill, it is more of an analyst skill. So as a leader, enabling or bringing all the organization, bringing everybody together towards those goals is a critical thing. With that, I think we are almost dot 11 o'clock, and we do have few more questions, but we will take these questions and share answers with you. If you have any other suggestion for our upcoming webinar, please do let us know. You will get the recording. You will also get slides, and there is going to be a white paper which is going to be written with all this great insight. So thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. And of course, thank you, Barry. He literally had just few minutes of his time. So I'm glad he managed to join. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for joining in. Some awesome insight, and folks have joined in from all over the globe. So thank you for staying up in the night, or if it's middle of the day or late in the night. So thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. Thanks a lot.
All right.